So lately I've been playing a ton of Elden Ring Nightreign, and this video is going to be a collection of my thoughts on it. If you came here expecting a review, I'll just drop my final statement right now. I think this game is fantastic, absolutely worth the price of admission, but it isn't for everyone, and I think it has a lot of untapped potential that may be reached with future content updates or DLC. It's this weird mix of Elden Ring, roguelikes, extraction shooters, and Monster Hunter. There's truly nothing out there quite like it, not even mods despite people comparing the game to a randomizer. Which means it's really hard to tell if you're going to like it or not until you actually try it. I welcome this kind of outside-of-the-box thinking. The games industry has gotten too safe and we need more weird and out-there ideas. We need more Yoko Taros and Suda 5-1s. Personally, I love it, but I also think it has a lot of untapped potential. I was shocked with how well Elden Ring's combat translated to the fast-paced, run-and-gun speedrun adjacent gameplay that Nightreign encourages. Where Elden Ring demands that you master the combat and beat hard bosses, Nightreign asks how fast you can beat them. The 8 Nightfarers all have widely different playstyles, and while they're not made equal, they're all great in their own way. This is fine in a PvE game with no PvP, and I'm sure I'll piss people off eventually when I get around to that tier list, but there are no bad characters. Coming from the balancing of Elden Ring and even AC6, this is straight up miraculous. Replayability is also something I'm not too worried about. Replaying a Souls game or Elden Ring is a huge time commitment, but if I just want a bite-sized chunk instead, I can just hop on Nightreign and have a self-contained playthrough in under an hour. This game also excels at spectacle. The Nightlords are some of the most visually impressive bosses From's ever made. I didn't think it was possible to bog Consort Radahn and Bale in the sheer Michael Bay factor without being a total mess, or destroying my GPU, but I'm happy to stand here with egg on my face. That said, none of the Nightlords are the hardest bosses From's ever made, not even the final boss, and probably not even their hard modes, which are still being released as I'm making this video. Even solo, there's no Nightlord that is as hard as Consort Radahn, and I actually think this is a good thing. Radahn is a grace right before his fight, so I can spend half an hour just practicing the boss to learn his moves and eventually beat him. In Nightreign, that half an hour is just a run up to the boss. My biggest worry before the game came out would be that it would be just as easy to shitstomp everything with 3 people as is in base Elden Ring, and that due to being balanced around co-op, the single player mode would be way too frustrating. I was very positively surprised to find that this game is pretty fucking hard in trios, and it feels well balanced for solo play as well. Now it's time to talk about my issues with the game. In terms of complaints, my biggest complaint is that I simply want more. More content, more maps, more weapons and spells, more randomization. I guess it's a huge compliment that my main complaint is that I just want more Nightreign, but I was surprised to see that we only have one map, only half a dozen Dark Souls bosses, 0 unique weapons from Dark Souls, and basically nothing from Shadow of the Erdtree besides Boudeng and Yoda. It would have been cool to find the Dragon King Great Axe as a gold rarity weapon, considering the dragon that drops it is literally in the game. I'm not suggesting it should come for a tail cut, but there are way too many cool weapons, enemies, and bosses that wouldn't break the lore if they were added. I'm not asking for main story Dark Souls bosses like Gale or Freed, but it would be really cool to get Nameless King's Sword Spear or the Smelter Demon's swords. Not to mention all the weapons and enemies in the DLC that are already a part of the Elden Ring universe. It is pretty stupid that they just forgot to add in a duo mode. I know it's coming in a future update, but it's really strange that they didn't launch the game with it. This game is kind of obsessed with enforcing certain weapon types on certain characters. I'm not just talking about stat alignments or the drop rates from bosses, which is fine in my opinion. I'm talking about how some of the character kits and relic effects restrict your weapon choice. Why is Wilder only able to do the follow-up attack to his grapple move with a greatsword? He clearly knows how to use other weapon types, and he even knows how to apply fire grease to them. Would it really be overpowered to have Flaming Strike at home with every melee weapon? Why is Guardian only able to charge up a guard counter with a halberd? Is he stupid? Is his little bird brain too small to understand that he can do the exact same motion of running forward and putting the pointy end of his weapon into his enemies with a lance or a spear too? There's nothing in Ionized's kit that just stops working if he ditched his bow and picked up a sword, and he's arguably the best character in the game. Would it really be overpowered if every character had the same amount of freedom to use whatever weapons they want? In theory, I'm okay with the hard mode fights rotating every week, but that's an almost 2-month-long cycle just to replay a specific hard mode fight. I hope after all the Everdark Sovereigns have had their introductory week, they become unlocked all at once, because I'm seriously considering switching to seamless co-op and the mod that unlocks them all. The script is being written the day before Adele's hard mode fight cycle's out, and I can't go back to regular Adele. He's too easy, and I worry this will happen for the other fights too. The relic screen desperately needs a search bar. Making a build in this game is fucking awful, and being able to search for specific perks would save hours of autistic number crunching. We should also be able to sell our favorite relics the moment we get them in the reward screen. The relics themselves are also pretty bad. I have no issue with the way the relics drop or the RNG aspect. My problem is that there are a few build enabling relic effects that you should never leave home without, and the other 90% are worthless filler. Cooldown reduction for abilities and ults is barely noticeable, HP restoration on attacks with certain weapons heals you from basically nothing, extra stat points are meaningless, and all the bonus damage effects that aren't the Everjail ones suck. I tried to use a relic that regens FP on claw attacks to maybe give Revenant some much needed FP regen. Then I realized that Revenant's claws are actually fist weapons and not claws. So I got a relic that restores FP on fist weapon attacks, and it's literally like 1 FP per hit. You will unironically regenerate more FP from a single Starlight Shard than you will from this relic in an entire run. And the hard mode shop has a relic that starts you off at 6 of the fuckers. It's not even just Revenant that has a serious weapon type clarity issue, trying to dual wield or make use of Great Axe perks as Raider is awful too. You're telling me this anchor is a Great Axe but not the giant axe you start with? No, that's a colossal weapon. Not to be confused with the Colossal Greatsword that's just called the Greatsword and doesn't work on Wilder's Greatsword only follow-up move after his grapple. Base Elden Ring just tells you what weapon type you have in the interface, why can't they do this for Nightreign when that knowledge matters even more in this game? Here are some suggestions I would like to see in this game. Alternate starting weapon. It doesn't have to be a unique model, just a basic white rarity weapon that you can start the game with instead of the default. Wilder could get a mace or a medium shield with no ash on it, foregoing parrying for a shield that's better for blocking that lets him use the ash in his main hand, an ultra greatsword for Raider, a crossbow for I, or a seal with some basic incantations for Recluse, since she has a ton of fate scaling in addition to int. Nothing too fancy, these are just starting weapons after all, but it'd be nice to be able to start a run with a different moveset. I want an even harder hard mode. The Everdark Sovereigns only buff the Night Lord at the end, but the 30 minutes before that are still really easy if you and your team have 2 brain cells to rub together. I don't know how they make it harder, maybe that'll just happen naturally as more bosses, enemies, and camps get added, but I'm probably a masochist and I was shocked that I never got jumped by Melania and the Scarlet Rot Swamp. I'd also like a mode that randomizes the night bosses instead of just having a selection of I think 3 per Night Lord. Unironically, the worst thing about Adele is having to occasionally fight Ancient Dragon on night 2. Fucker puts me to sleep faster than Maris, give me literally anything else. The Pursuer from Dark Souls 2 being able to invade you like Morgan does sometimes. He even flies in on a bird, which would be a neat parallel to the Nightfarers. Actually, just more reprised bosses in general. More lore. Despite not being written by Miyazaki or George R.R. Martin, Nightreign can still shed some light on Elden Ring's lore, like the new Eternal City, which is probably just a nameless city before it was destroyed. But the thing that interests me the most is Gwyn, God of War, likely the true name of the Nameless King. It fits the custom of Gwyn's kids having names that starts with G, and it's also likely that he was stripped of his name and took the name of Faram in Dark Souls 2. The similarity between Faram and Farum, as in Farum Azula, is not lost on me. The question though is this the same Nameless King as the one in Dark Souls, or is it a new character that FromSoft simply reusing the name and model for? Should we have taken this quote from Martin more seriously?
The game is called the Elden Ring, and it's a sequel to a video game that came out a few years ago called Dark Souls.
Did he simply misspeak when he should have said spiritual successor? Is Elden Ring a Dark Souls timeline where the player never found Archdragon Peak and never killed Nameless King? Is the night the age of dark? Is this the eclipse Mikola and Castle Sol keeps going on about? Is the Elden Ring what the Ashen One made with the first flame and the usurpation of fire ending? Do we fight the Night Lords in the same desert at the end of time that we fight Gale in, just a few miles away so we can't see each other? I could schizo post about this all day. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. I've long held this opinion in non-Nightreign Elden Ring that I still hold in this game: Fate beats Int any day of the week. Giant's Flame Nuke, Placidus X's Giga Laser, the Godskin incantations, Bestial 12 Gauge, the other Giant's Flame Nuke. Int has some nice spells too, don't get me wrong, but the best damage spells are all Faith incantations. Fate builds make the best casters, and it looks like FromSoft agrees with me because they gave Recluse some absolutely massive, humongous Fate scaling. You take one look at her and you assume that she's the Int class? Nope, this is a Hex build straight out of Dark Souls 2.